Hi, I'm Melissa Bill, and welcome to the Business Roundup. Today we are catching up with, joining me is Oleg Konovalov. He is a global leader, an author, business educator, and a C-suite coach. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Melissa, I'm honored to be on your show, and thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Now, I think we were kind of talking before we got started. It's called the Business Roundup, but we talk about so many other things because business is like a broad, so there's a lot of things that go within business. Business leaders and just companies across the board have to deal with different types of things. So I think we're going to dive in a little bit. I like to give the guest an opportunity to talk a little bit about their background as we start. So would you mind sharing a little bit about your background?
Right. I was brought up in an Arctic environment, so I know how to face tough situations in reality. I went from being a second engineer on a deep-sea trawlers in the North Atlantic to a CEO position. For last few years, or quite a few years, I'm exploring grand solutions to grand leadership challenges. And because of my practical approach, I always believe in practical solutions that people could apply at work, at home, in their personal lives, at their startups or grown-up businesses, regardless. That's what I do. Simple.
That's amazing. Well, I know, and you, like I said, what kind of got you passionate in that type of sector? Like, what drove you to want to kind of create this type of avenue? Because I know your book is called Beyond Chaos: How to Create Clarity When Everything Falls Apart. Where did you see some things that there was like some holes or some loopholes out there? People were just needing guidance.
We're facing a lot of changes, right? Overwhelming changes. And what happens? We hardly coping with that chaos or turbulence around us. And we allow that chaos to penetrate our minds. Let's throw a line, not into our brains, because brain is physiological part of our body, so if we have a problem like headache, we get a tablet. But mind is something different. You can't get a tablet for it. You must master it yourself. Today, found that more than 76% of today leaders are chaos addicted in their thinking. They have difficulty with decision making, they have difficulty with focus, concentration, coming up with solutions, more or less, and they're spreading that chaos across their teams, and that's wouldn't get better. It would get worse. We tend to forget that we are only humans and we have a certain capacity. Like, for instance, we could process about 30,000 reactions a day to different signals, to different emotions, or whatever. But because we are overwhelmed by noise, we're trying to process more and more, and life is pushing us. You must need to do more. You must rush. We're always rushing. We even don't have a time to talk to ourselves. And therefore, we becoming less humans, we becomes more of like biological machines incapable of processing emotions and clear solutions. And that is quite risky because we tend to bring it back to our homes and we spread that, or we make that chaos viral to our families. I don't want to live in such an environment. I don't need... I've been at sea. I don't want to be with captain who is panicking at the first wave. I don't want him panicking just being out of the docks.
That is true. Yeah, if they're gonna break under that one, it doesn't look too good for the journey ahead.
No, 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 no. Not with me. And therefore, what we are looking at these days, we are betting on AI. AI would tell us, give us answers. AI could only share with us what we downloaded into it. But it's appears that we don't know many critical and big things which are very relevant for everyday life and business, of course. No one explored before the nature of chaos in leadership. I was the first who explored the nature of vision and how to create it and turn it into a framework, because it's never been discussed. no one discussed before what clarity is and how to turn it into a shareable resource, because clarity is not a slogan, it's not a motto, it's not something like if I would tell you, Melissa, you need to have clarity for your personal life. Your honest response would be, what clarity is? Well, can I touch it? Can I get it? What kind of a substance is it? Therefore, we don't know about those things, but we're trying to talk about clarity that AI might give us. It doesn't work. We must create it. Today, chaos is a norm, and that's very normal. But unfortunately, uh, we we don't understand that clarity is everyday achievement.
That's true, and, like, yeah, and I know people were saying, like, as far as AI and that type of thing, another thing is we have to be the ones, like, guiding AI should not be guiding us, we have to be the ones and the leaders to guide where AI and these digital transformations are going to head in the future, otherwise we're gonna be in trouble.
I have a very interesting experience. I, I'm privileged to talk to brilliant people from across the globe. And something interesting came up in one of my conversations when we were talking about AI. How much do we know about AI? And what happened? We're mainly creating the noise around AI. There are only a handful of true experts, but the rest are just copy pasting what someone else has said and they're adding their comments, pretending that they are experts. And in fact, for one true original piece or article about AI, it's more than 10,000 copy pasted fake versions. So we're creating noise which makes us suffer. We are victims of it.
That is yeah, that's amazing, and when you point that out, because it is true, a lot of people just use the term, digital transformation and are just, I know a lot of people are even worried as far as like in the healthcare industry and stuff like that. It's being used. AI is going to help out with a lot of like, note taking or for data and like stuff like that. But when it comes to it can't see the future and it can't really see like what's going on with that patient right then and there.
Melissa, straight to the bullseye. We have a chance to define, or our capacity is to define how the future would look like. AI wouldn't be defining tomorrow. We are defining tomorrow. And for that, we must have a clarity, whether for personal life, how happy my family is going to be, or how successful my business is going to be, what I will create in terms of value. In this sense, AI only reflects on the past experience, but future is always created from a new, unless you're dragging your previous mistakes into your future. But in realistically, you're creating something like a new terrain. You're exploring it, and this is where you need to have clarity. You don't need to have a clarity for the past. It's nothing there. We don't need to have clarity. Clarity, we much needed it for the future.
And now, how have you helped different companies kind of create and execute like their vision while maintaining like a strong, productive, like corporate culture, like remaining true to themselves?
First of all, I'm blessed to work with smart people. Stupid people are not asking for my services because vision, clarity, vision leadership is an elite college service, right? It's very top. And less than 0.1% of today leaders have vision, true vision. The rest is only pretenders. And I have trained companies and executives from more than 40 countries. My approach is very simple, again, practical, which I took from the fishing industry. Show me a result, right? Where's your fish? In this sense, it's very simple. I always promise people at least return on investment at least 20 times plus. And it's phenomenal. I am blessed to see how those people are growing tremendously. I was coaching one of the startups from Scandinavia, and in 6 months, they have grown by 6 times. What makes me happy? because they're immediately getting into a very different league, very different level, and they're thinking differently. And every conversation with them is amazing. And I'm learning from them as much as they are learning from me. So, as I said, it's a blessing.
That's amazing, and a lot of so what you're saying in some ways it's the thinking that is changing, like, it's the thought process that has to change in order for, like, the growth to really take place.
It's mindset. Leadership is about mindset. It's not a physical work. It's not about pushing tons or running fast. It's about thinking greatly. One of the issues, I was always puzzled with a question. Why not so many people are not thinking big? And eventually I collected the data, analyzed it, and I came up to a very phenomenal answer. Most of the people are not prepared to think big because they're not prepared to act big. So
That's true.
when you deal with people who are prepared to act and think big, what could be better?
Like you were saying, there's very few people kind of in that mold. Maybe also, I mean, you have to have a little bit of, like, courage too, I'm sure, because
Oh,
there's a
yes.
little bit of fear is what
But,
probably holds most of us back.
but those fears are usually not genetically imprinted in us because we have natural fears like fear of snakes or fear of scuba diving or skydiving, doesn't matter. Those normal fears. But fears that you will fail is given to us by others. Bear in mind, those nasty gifts like fears you would not succeed, you would not fail, you should not do this, those fears are given to us. And if we accept them, then we are powerless. But if we will get rid of them by understanding it's not my fear, it's given to me, it's not within me, it's been just like attached to me, you will fly.
That's definitely a good way to think about it for sure. And what are like some of the other challenges that leaders face, especially as we head forward, besides just their thought processes and the way they're, because like you were saying with the AI and different things, what are some of the challenges we're going to see moving into 2026?
There are different data says differently, but I would say more than 95% of people are afraid of the future. Instead of creating future, today leaders are hustling with the present. So its ability to look forward, to think into the future and create it remains even more critical. And it's not about how nice you are today, it's about how great you're going to be tomorrow. I have a simple approach. The past is ego. Whatever you have done before, great, well done, but it's ego. The present is humility. We're all on this burning platform of the present. We don't know much and we're jumping, we're juggling with it. But what you create in the future is your pride, because you create much greater things that you ever have done before. Therefore, you must think into the future where your success is. Unfortunately, not many people are prepared to think into the future. We're still attached to the past.
Yeah, but we
We're
let that kind
dragging
of, I
old
guess
problems into tomorrow.
that's true. You kind of hold that baggage with you as you're moving forward, and that kind of keeps you from growing.
It is. And how you could create the future if you are thinking about the past. So you're disconnecting your thoughts. Your thoughts would never meet with solutions for tomorrow. Imagine a family where partners are arguing about something. If they argue about what have been done wrong before, they wouldn't build anything great. Instead of saying, there are mistakes, but we will change it for the future to be great together. It's like getting into the boardroom, and I have this experience, where people defending own grounds for the sake of today. I'm always saying, your goals must be greater than today's problems.
That's true. And like for people who are gonna, want to like get the book and stuff like that, what are some of the takeaways that they'll find in the book? Like, what are some of the things that you go over and kind of touch upon?
There are solutions. And those solutions is not about me, it's not about the book. It's about how to make people great, how to make them giants, n- not suffering because of that environment or chaos or whatever. It's about raising the giants of the future. And therefore, it's relevant to everyone, specifically these days, and it has quite a mass appeal. It's not specifically just for very senior leaders, it's for everyone. More or less, it's how to get out of challenges and being proud of yourself.
And now you said this can be used, it's not just business, it's like in any part of your life. It could be your personal parts of your life or anything.
The leadership books often are have a very narrow view, specifically at the boardroom or management level. But we are humans. We tend to bring something back home and take something from home back to the office. For instance, if someone, a CEO, is chaos addicted, surely he will get all those things in a mess at home and in the office. So it's relevant to everyone. And if someone lost a job, would it affect his personal life? Of course. Or if something happens at home, would it affect his business life? Yes, of course. So it's not as straightforward. Therefore, it must be revealed in a great extent where people could apply it from different angles.
And now we kind of, you talked a little bit about that chaos of, having leaders. I think a lot of us, not just leaders, probably anybody who's in the working environment, you're dealing with a lot of things at once and you don't disengage from it. Do you have any like advice for people in general, like in work and stuff like that?
Very simple. Very simple. Simplest advice is check how many priorities do you have. Unfortunately, people don't realize that you have many priorities. That means you have no priorities. Keep maximum 3-4 priorities. Today leaders, they're handling tens of priorities a day. Therefore, they're pushing their teams, they're pushing themselves, they're slaves of their calendar. No. You can't have clarity when everything is priority.
That makes sense. So kind of don't have this list of 500 things to, that this is what has to be done. You need to kind of have the priorities for that day and then kind of let it be. And then the next day, same thing.
And even if you're facing a toughest situation or toughest challenge or toughest stage of your life, when you wake up in the morning, just think simply, what one thing I could do today which would be important for me? Just one, not 10, just one, because you need to regain that strength. You need to regain that clarity. If you're jumping all over, well, you're not a cowboy at the Wild West time, firing all over. It doesn't
Oh,
work.
true. That's very true. And like if people now I know do you do speaking engagements as well? Okay.
Yes, I do. I do speak from stages.
And all over I know I've seen like from all over the world. I mean, I think you've done like globally. I know you work with different industries and businesses. And where, as far as, are there certain industries that you tend to focus on more, or are you pretty much open to any industry?
Any industry. Because if you think, for instance, if we talk about banking industry, or you talk about oil or IT, it's not about processes, it's about people. We will have driverless cars, but we wouldn't have people-less organizations. Right? It's all about people, and people will define processes. So if you make people think into the future and create that future, they will come up with the best processes. But if you focus on processes, people get bored and they would be believing that they're secondary to that AI.
That's a good point. Put them back as far as being like important in the situation, because I think like you're pointing out too, that's the fear of a lot of people, is that they're going to be replaced, or they're not necessary anymore. So that is definitely, I think, in any industry.
Any. Therefore, it's not about specific, no, that's good for aviation or that's good for banking. No, it's about people who could create solutions, great solutions for tomorrow. Our processes, they don't define solutions. No, they're just tools to create something. But it all works in a simple equation. Every success depends on two elements. Value we create for others, right? And value is defined by people who received it. It's not like me saying to you, Melissa, I have something valuable for you. No. Extent to which that thing is valuable for you, you will define, not me, right? So it's about value and it's about effort. Effort of everyone engaged. So people. If people engaged and they producing value, you are successful. But if you're focusing on the processes, not value, people are already disengaged. What kind of a success you will be talking about? You already lost.
Makes sense. Definitely.
Simple equation, simple formula.
And now if people wanted more information on you or the book, what's the best way to find it?
The book, Beyond Chaos, How to Create Clarity When Everything Falls Apart, is available on Amazon, actually everywhere. And to find me, it's my website, olegkonovalov.com, or connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm fairly responsive to the messages. It's not a bot responding to the messages. It's me
That's
tapping those
amazing.
messages.
That's amazing.
If
And
you
I
see the
know,
mistakes, that's definitely me.
and now I saw there's blog posts as well. Do you do often like blog on different topics on the website?
Uh, I tr- I try not to overburden people with, just like sending blogs every now and then. I'm more publishing different videos quietly and nicely on my YouTube channel. It's
Okay.
called The Visionary Leader with Oleg Konovalov, but it seems to me it's growing even better because people decide what they want to watch at their own convenience rather than me pushing things forward.
Right. And then, yeah, different tops. Okay, perfect. I'm going to check that out as well.
Uh, Actually, back to our conversation, when we talk about that we are overwhelmed by noise created by others, what we consume, we produce. If we consume a lot of noise, we produce a lot of noise. And one of the questions, do you produce noise yourself? And therefore, don't be noisy.
I like that one. I like that. That is good. I'm gonna definitely have to like use that. And I think a lot of people do. And sometimes you do yours, so you try not to, but just you get caught up in that game and it's like you find yourself doing the same thing and it doesn't really get you anywhere or anybody else. So just trying to be, yeah, and you're centered and in that place and time where you are at the moment.
Okay. Thank you, Marisa.
It's wonderful speaking with you. I really appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for joining the Business Roundup, where we always try to bring you interviews with some of the leading people in business, whether it be technology, finance, or energy. I hope you tune in. I hope you subscribe and listen, and we'll give you updates for new interviews that are coming up. Until next time, I'm Melissa Bill.